And I'm saying a goodbye to my youth. I hate to see you go so soon. With many a time to screw up. And many a time to make do. You can try and drown me out, but my songs are too loud. Now it ain't easy.
What's up, guys? This is the Here's the Rubble podcast, episode number 5. That was Don't Drag Me Down by Gratuitous Platypus. I'm Steve, and with me as always is RJ.
Hello, hello.
And today we have actually another member of Gratuitous Platypus with us, George. Last
Hello
week we had
there.
Stellar. Yeah, there he is. Last week we had Stellar, and we got another one of them back. And no spoilers, but next week we'll have the third member back.
Yep,
So
indeed. It's like Gratuitous Platypus month.
The
Yeah,
feature.
yeah.
We're the features.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah.
This is our split compilation with Gratuitous Platypus.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, anyway, as always, we're here to talk about some music and stuff. But before we get too into it, RJ, what have you been listening to lately, man?
I think over the past week I've been kind of listening to more of the same. I recently created that new Spotify account, and I'm kind of trying to recalibrate it so it's recommending me the stuff I want it to recommend me.
Yeah, it is kind of weird whenever you start one of those new accounts, because then it's like you're getting things where it's like, oh, here's what you want to listen to, and it's like, you're basing this off of nothing? Like, it's very clear considering that I don't listen to anything like this at all. Like,
Right. Yeah. I have been listening to, though, again, because we talked about them on the Friday new music release radar episode.
Right.
A new track from a like reggae dub band from a city right like a couple miles away from me. They're like an hour drive. They're called Giant Panda Gorilla Dub Squad. Awesome
that
name.
is a great name.
But I've been listening to them again lately just a lot because they came out with a new killer track. But other than that, yeah, kind of just more of the same.
Solid. Yeah, fair enough, man.
How about you? What you been listening to, Steve?
I listened to like a couple new records this week, but well, not records, but albums. I listened to "Joy Departed" by Sorority Noise, which is like I'd heard a few like songs off of that album before. It's like a pop punk album, came out in like 2015 or something, but it's really good. I would definitely recommend it. I really liked "Using" and "Art School Wannabe" off of it. Those are two that really stood out to me. And then what else have I listened to? This isn't like a new one for me, but I was listening to "Wild Onion" by the band Twin Peaks. George is actually the one who turned me on to these guys.
Nice. Nice.
It's a great album, yeah. But yeah, that's all for me. But anyway, we have George here with us. So hey, George.
Hey, that's me. How's it? I'm happy to be here, guys.
Happy to have you.
We're happy to have you. What have you been listening to lately, George, that you want to talk about?
Most recently, I've been actually within the past couple days been listening to a lot of it's not uncharacteristic for me, but been listening to some classic rock stuff that I had just not listened to before, I guess.
Oh, no kidding.
I started playing Rock Band 2 again. I was telling Steve about it before we started. But the title song for that game, there's a little animatic at the beginning that plays, and it's set to "Hello There" by Cheap Trick. And I've never really listened to any of their stuff, but I was like, this song rocks. It's so good. I'm gonna listen to some more of their stuff. So the album with "Hello There" on it, I believe it's their second album. I forget the name of the album though, but that's been on my rotation right now.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't listened to much Cheap Trick actually.
It's actually really sick stuff.
Yeah, I believe it. everything that I've heard by them, I've always been like, yeah, this is really cool. I've just never actually sat down and listened to any of the like actual albums or anything.
Yeah, I've definitely like passively listened to them. Like, you know, if
Exactly,
someone puts them
right.
on, I'm like, who's this? And
Or
things
they
like
come on the
that.
radio or something.
Yeah, but I've never really gone out of my way to like listen to an album all the way through or anything like that.
I was
Yeah,
exactly
totally.
the same way until until recently when I was like, you know what? I think it's time.
Yeah,
I think it's time.
It's about time I try it out.
yeah. Yeah, I actually have been listening to one band a little bit, trying to check them out. I told Steve about them briefly earlier. Red Fang, they're like a stoner rock band.
Oh, sick.
And see, because I had like a really angsty like teenage punk phase, where where like I
You,
want to.
RJ? Really?
Yeah, I know it's crazy, but like to me, like at 16 as a punk, it's like no, I'm not listening to Metallica. I'm not listening to anything but just pure punk rock, Dead Kennedys, Rancid,
Nice.
things like that. So I missed out on a lot of stuff like that, like a lot more of the metal stuff, and I never really got into stoner rock. And every time I hear like some stoner rock, I'm like, this is really cool. Why don't I listen to this more? So I'm more actively trying to get into it right now.
Nice. It's such a great world of music too. Like there's so much good stuff there.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Yeah, so you said, sorry, it was Red Fang. You're telling me
Yep.
to check them out. You said they kind of reminded you of like Tool, didn't you?
Yeah, I listened to like one specific song and just yeah, I don't know if it's just everything about it, but the guy's voice especially in one specific song, I'm like, this
Okay.
instantly reminds me of Tool. Wow.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't good.
Oh, my cord got caught on something. That was terrible.
Gotcha. Okay, it's fine. We'll edit that out.
Yeah.
We'll just pick up right here. But yeah, stoner rock. That's a funny name, like for a genre. Like what, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, like going into it, I didn't know what I was expecting, but it
Yeah,
wasn't
totally.
necessarily what I got. And
Yeah,
that's not
like,
a
I
bad
was-
thing. I feel like my expectations were like blown past. Like I feel like I'm really liking it more than I thought I would have ended up liking it.
yeah, I don't know. Just from the name stoner rock, I don't know if that would be something that I would like. Because like stoner metal, there's like I've seen like memes about it and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, you want to listen to like real stoner metal, then just put on an Alvin and the Chipmunks record and slow it down. Actually, have you ever done that? On YouTube, it's like,
I've seen those videos on YouTube.
yeah, the
Yeah.
sludge metal Alvin and the Chipmunks. Surprisingly good. I'm actually not gonna lie. I enjoyed it a lot, but I
I
don't
feel like
know if I would. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
You could fit a lot of albums under like stoner rock if you think about it.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, like
Yeah.
anything that's got a little like a nice groove to it or even gets a little complex in a cool way could
Mhm.
fall under that category.
I could see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
definitely.
just, it seems very broad, but I don't know. To be fair, I also haven't listened to much of it.
But
So
it definitely has that sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, 100% agree with that. Another thing that you guys might have saw because it went pretty instantly viral like last week. But did you see that band of like I think they're like 11 or 12-year-old girls, and they made a song called "Racist Sexist Boy," and
Oh
played
no,
it.
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, and they like played it in a library and like told a story like, yeah, we wrote this song because one time this little boy walked up to me in class and said my dad said I should stay away from Chinese people and then backed away from me. And
Wow.
it's actually like a killer song. Like it's
Nice.
really
Good for
good. It's
them.
like straight up punk rock, better than most of these garage bands I've listened to.
Nice.
And they
That's
actually
awesome.
they actually just got signed to Epitaph. Epitaph
What?
signed them.
Holy
Yeah.
shit. Damn. Good for them.
That's awesome.
Tom Morello tweeted out the video of their performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's so
Damn.
cool.
like
that's
and
crazy.
wicked talented kids. Like awesome to see that.
Oh, what I wouldn't give to get signed.
Right.
Yeah. I always want to be really happy for like whenever I see that, like, you know, these young kids doing really well, but then I'm like looking, I'm like, man, I am twice their age
Yeah,
and I have accomplished not even half of that. So
yeah.
We Gratuitous Platypus, when we first started playing gigs in Calgary, I feel like we were a little bit of that. Like,
Yeah, no,
we
totally.
brought that energy a little bit because we were like 16 when we started playing with bands like that were a lot older than us, and yeah, like I remember getting looked at by other musicians in that sort of way, and now like we're growing into that age.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
now you're showing up to shows almost like, who are these little kids around me with instruments?
Yeah, who are these 16-year-olds playing way better than I ever could?
Yeah.
Well, that's like Frank Mona, eh, George?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another really great. Are they from Calgary? You talk about them because you're the one you're the one who showed me them.
Yeah, they're a Calgary band. We met them at this place called Without Papers Pizza. When we met them, they're a year younger than we are. I think we were in the 11th grade when we were playing, or might have been 12th. Either way, they're sick. They play like classic sort of garage rock type stuff, like Strokesy, White Stripes kind of stuff.
Totally.
They're called Frank Mona. It's used to be 3 guys. I think there's a new member now. But that's like more recent than I've seen them recently. But they're great. They're one of my favorite Calgary bands, and I would love to like keep playing with them again in the future.
You showed me a song with them that was like really good. I think it was "Can't Move."
Yeah, they've got a EP out on Spotify right now called Excerpt A. It's really great. It's like 4 tracks, and it's very solid.
I would say definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to listen to that.
Their drummer is there also, like, he sings and drums at the same time, or he used to, like when I saw him. I think with their new member he might have moved around a little bit, but he's got a great voice. That was like the first thing that really struck me about their group is he's got a really killer voice.
Yeah, I love a nice voice in music. I feel like sometimes I'm almost blinded by like really good voices, and like people
totally
like, those drums kind of sound like shit. I'll be like, what? I can't hear you. This person's voice is angelic.
Yeah. I find like you don't always need a great voice, but when you do have a great voice in a band, it really can elevate them.
Especially if you can surprise someone with that really nice voice.
Totally.
If I don't see it coming, and I just hear like just a beautiful, just like just perfect voice in a song, I'm like, this is my favorite song now.
Yeah, or like when you're like a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old rolls up and is singing circles around you like he's been playing for 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. But sorry. There was something else I know what I wanted to talk about. The song that George has for us is it's off of the album Twin Fantasy by Car Seat Headrest. Like this is his like recent the song he's recently had on repeat and stuff like that. He's had this one, not to dox you too much here, George. He's had this album on repeat for a while, actually, because when I first moved in with them, it was basically playing. I think you had been listening to it, George. You had started listening to Twin Fantasy, and you're like, "Have you guys checked out this album? It's really good." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've listened to that before. I haven't listened to it in a while, but yeah, I remember it being good." And then like over the months, just slowly everyone started listening to it, and it got to the point where like I couldn't walk through the house without hearing like Car Seat Headrest.
Yeah.
That's been the effect that I've had on people. I've found like anyone
100%.
Anyone who spends like an extended period of time around me, I slowly force my taste onto them.
That's what happened to Gage when I moved in.
Yeah. Even the album I was just talking about earlier, Wild Onion by Twin Peaks, that's the exact same thing. Like George was just playing that around the house, and I was like, who is this? And he was like, let me show you some videos. And we were like, I was like, all right, sure. And we just sat on the couch and he showed me a bunch of their music videos. And I was like, damn, these guys are cool. I got to check them out. And you were like, all right, here are 3 albums you should listen to by them. I still have only listened to the one, but I'm getting around to the other ones soon. Don't worry.
I get a little bit obsessive when it comes to music. The way that like my listening goes is I always like I go through phases of bands. Like really heavily for maybe a couple months at a time. Then I can kind of gauge the bands that are my all-time favorites by the ones that have like stayed consistent through the other phases that I've been through.
Yeah.
But I kind of like categorize my life by the bands that I'm listening to at any given time.
Oh, dude, I totally do too.
I'm like right now in that big. Like, I'm really into Car Seat Headrest right now, and, like, I mean, there's some other little things mixed in there as well, but it's, like, the big thing right now.
Yeah, I have a very similar method when it comes to bugging my friends while listening to my favorite artist. Like, it took, like, months. But I like bullied Gage into liking folk punk. Like
nice.
I'd be in his car, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna steal the Bluetooth when you're getting gas, and you're gonna listen to Mischief Brew for about an hour.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll let you control the music in your own car.
If I'm feeling generous.
Yeah. If you're good, all right.
Yeah.
I've started like recently trying to relinquish a little bit of control because it's like, you know, or like just when I'm driving, at least like when I'm in a car, because I don't like drive myself, but I'm always the co-pilot that steals the aux cord. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, RJ, I don't know if you listened to any Car Seat Headrest before.
Not a ton. That's another one of those bands that I've always thought were cool, but never really took the time to get into.
Well, I'm really curious to see what you think of this one then.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I don't mean to rush it or anything, but like now I really want to hear what you think of this one.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to take a listen, so let's do that real quick.
All right, Gage, cue it up.
Lovely, lovely, in your dreams, frenzy. Another movie that I didn't watch with you. Another movie, and we're gonna have the final terror is in your house somewhere, hiding in boxes behind closed doorways, out from the forest adjacent to your garage. I've seen its marks at the corner of your eyes. Nothing works. Nothing works for everyone. Good stories are bad lies. Good stories are bad lies. Take your hands off your neck and hold on to the ghost of my body. You know that goodbye's fake. That stories you can text me when punching mattresses gets old. Don't think it'll always be this way. Not comforted by anything I say. We were rest before we got into each other. Such a good idea if it turns you on. We have breakdowns and sometimes we don't have breakdowns. I wanna hear you going psycho if you're going psycho. I wanna hear every conversation just ends with you screaming. Not even words, just ah 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 ah. attention to each other. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. Don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more.
Yeah, I love that song, man. That's a really good pick, George.
Thanks. Yeah, it's one of my favorites on the album. It was really hard to like kind of
To
narrow
just
it
choose
down
one?
to a
Yeah.
favorite on the album, but I think that's the one that I've been like connecting the most with recently.
Honestly, good choice. Because like for me, I think my favorite is probably Beach Life.
Yeah.
But that song is like 15 minutes long, so that
Yeah.
would be kind of a weird one to play on this, I think.
Yeah, I was like, do I throw down Famous Prophet stuff? No, that's 16 minutes long. Maybe not.
yeah, that's a long one. Yeah. RJ, what did you think of that? Oh, are you there, man?
Sorry,
think you're
sorry.
muted.
I
Yeah,
was muted.
there you go.
Yeah, pretty much exactly when it ended, I said, I want you guys to know about a minute and maybe a minute and 15 seconds ago, I went and downloaded that whole album.
Dude,
Because-
you have to check it out. It's so good.
I feel like I've talked about it on the podcast a few times when you like listen to a song and sometimes it doesn't click, but that song just instantly clicked. I'm like instantly like, this is one of the best songs I've heard in a very long time.
That's exactly how I felt when I like first listened to the album. That sums it up so perfectly.
Yeah. I'm really excited to just like sit down, close my eyes with some earbuds in, and just listen to it all the way through.
Yeah, dude. That album is great for that. I just did that recently again. That was one that actually I was really glad when George forced everyone to listen to it because it got me back into that album because I think I listened to it like the year before and in the summer or whatever, and I was like, that was when I was like listening to like 10 albums a day in the tractor or something just to, like pass the time.
Right.
So like for whatever reason that one just didn't really stick with me. I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty good, but I like moved on and I didn't think about it again. And then like George started playing it again and I was like, damn, there's like a lot of really good songs on this album. And I went back and I listened to it again and I was like, oh, like I actually felt like I fully appreciated them this time.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing with me. Like when I'm in a phase where I'm listening to a lot of new stuff and trying to get into more stuff, I feel like sometimes it's almost counterproductive because I'll be listening to so much stuff that I almost like forget about some of it or like just like don't even realize how cool something is. That's why I do really like, that's pretty much why I started this podcast, because it gives me a way to like have people force me to listen to a song. And so far it's worked out pretty well because I've discovered a lot of artists I like through this.
I was going to say, man, even just from
Nice.
having the guests on the podcast, I think I've downloaded at least out of like the two songs that everybody plays on every podcast. I think I've downloaded at least one from every single like episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Sick.
Yeah.
That album, like, sorry to just like grab the conversation.
No, go ahead.
That's fine.
I like felt totally the same way where it grabbed me. Went I like every day I have to transit to work, and I always am putting on like a new album on my way there, on my way back, and it takes a little under the amount of time that like an album takes to get to work. Like usually I'm turning off the album when I get home and doing something else, but that album, Twin Fantasy, was the first one that like I was on the train coming home, and I got to that song, Sober to Death, and it just like grabbed me. The little bit at the end where they're switching between 6/8 and 4/4, and the instruments are kind of going between acoustic and electric instruments with the different time signatures.
Part is so cool, yeah.
That like really grabbed me, and I decided, I was like, I need to finish this album when I get home. Like I got in the front door and I just sat down and didn't do anything else till I was done it.
Yeah. For a while I was working the night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. pretty much just by myself, the only one in the store as a cashier. And that used to be a time when I spent a lot of time just like shuffling music I haven't listened to, like Discover Weekly on Spotify and stuff like that. And yeah, I think not often did I find a band or like an album where I'm like, okay, I'm going home and I'm going to stay up for at least another hour to finish this record. But one of them was, and I've talked about them before, that hardcore band from Sweden, Raised Fist.
Oh yeah.
That band was one of those ones where I'm like, I'm in the gas station and it comes on. I'm like, wait, this might be a little too hardcore for the gas station when old ladies are getting their coffee at 5 a.m. So I like turned it off, but then as soon as I clocked out, I like put my earbuds in. I'm like, okay, what was that?
I got you.
Because like
it's so great when like something just grabs you like that, like when an album just does that for you.
Yeah, and like as a kid, I remember like staying up late for like midnight releases for video games and stuff. But now like I find myself like having to force myself to go to sleep when I discover a new artist I really like.
Yeah.
And like I'll find myself like on Fridays waiting until like I'll be tired, but I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna wait till midnight, see what songs drop. Like,
I think the last. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, just like the irresponsibility I had as a kid when it came to like video games and stuff has just transformed into now it's
into
for
music.
Yeah, I think the last time I had a moment like that where I listened to like a song and I was like, I need to listen to the rest of this band. For me, that was with Joyce Manor.
Oh yeah,
I love Joyce Manor so much. I think I heard it was. I was making an emo music playlist because this is really lame. I was writing. I was writing an essay or like an essay. That's the word for it, on like the history of like emo music and blah blah this and that for one of our classes, first year university actually, for musicology, George, and so I just added a bunch of random emo music to the playlist to like kind of listen to while I was working on it, get myself in the mood. And I think it was a Constant Headache came on, and I was like, I listened to it and I was like, damn, like it just punched me in the gut, that song. I was like, okay, I need to check out the rest. So I downloaded that.
Finish it.
Literally, yeah. So I downloaded that album and I listened to the whole thing, and each song was exactly that. Again, I posted about this on the Here's the Rubble Instagram account. That was one of the albums that I put up as like the album of the day or whatever.
Yep, I do remember that.
Yeah, because that one it just, for some reason, it just really connected with me. So I went and I downloaded like I think 4 of their other albums, and I listened to like all of them like that week, and I'm still listening to them. Like that's one that's really stuck with me. And I think it's really cool when that happens. When you actually find like an album or a band that you just connect with that much that you're like, okay, I'm obsessing over this for like a full week, and then I'm still going to continue to listen to them like as time goes on.
Another band that And, I'm not trying to, fanboy out or anything. But another band that I pretty instantly was like, this is one of my favorite bands, was Gratuitous Platypus when Steve...
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, of course. When Steve, showed me you guys. And, your music, I feel like, is just really accessible. Not in 100% in a good way, really accessible. I feel like anyone could really enjoy your music. Even Gage, because I started listening to you guys when I was in a phase with Gage where he was kind of skeptical of the music I listened to, because I still listen to NoFX.
Gage.
Because, growing up and stuff, me and Gage always used to argue, NoFX versus Rise Against, which is a weird comparison to make because they're not very similar bands. But, it's like 15-year-old punk things. No, my favorite punk band is better than your favorite punk band.
Yeah, totally.
So he was still skeptical, but as soon as I put on, I can't remember what it was. It might have been Maybe It's Just Us. He was like, yeah, no, these guys are pretty dope. I like this.
That means a lot. That's awesome.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, just your guys' music, I just love it. I'm always in the mood for some Gratuitous Platypus, even if I can never spell gratuitous.
The only reason I know how to is because I'm in the band.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know either.
Last episode. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, go ahead, Steve.
I was just gonna say to George, last episode we talked about how you guys got the name for the band.
Yep.
Stiller told us that story about you just plopping your finger down in a page of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and just pulling out the word gratuitous.
Yeah, that happened to be the first adjective that I found.
The perfect one.
Yeah.
Every time I tell someone, yo, you should listen to this Canadian band, Gratuitous Platypus, one of the coolest bands I ever listened to, they're always like, that's the best band name I've ever heard.
There's some days when I'm a little over it. I'm I would like to be something else. But then I remember back to the fact that the only reason why people checked us out when we were 16 years old at little festivals in Calgary was because we had the name Gratuitous Platypus.
Right.
People had to see the kids connected to that name.
Yeah, and even when Steve sent me your guys' music, I'm like, Gratuitous Platypus. Yeah, I gotta hear this. And then I was instantly impressed. And it's a name you don't forget. I've never struggled to remember Gratuitous Platypus.
One thing I've been telling a lot of people about in relation to car seat headrest recently, because I've been trying to, actively get the people around me to listen to car seat headrest and succeeding, I might add.
And succeeding, yeah.
But a big thing that I describe or that I talk about when I introduce them to car seat headrest is I think the reason, a big reason why it just jumped out so much to me immediately was the fact that it's the first band in a long time that I found that I can equate the music that Gratuitous Platypus makes to. I had a really hard time for a long time. Everyone would ask what genre we played or what our music was like, and there wasn't really a good way for me to answer that question. And just I really think that Twin Fantasy, that car seat headrest, is very comparable to what we make. And it's the first time that I've been really confident in saying that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think the new album you guys have coming out too.
It's a lot more like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I can't wait for that new album.
I can't wait for people to hear it.
Yeah. Because
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, because so far, every single time I've listened to you guys make music, it's been spectacular. I checked out one of the live streams a while back. I wasn't able to check out the second one, but that first live stream made me think, yeah, this whole live streaming concerts thing is kind of cool. I like this.
I can just be in my house and watch a show.
Yeah,
all right.
I think I turned to Gage, my roommate, and just said, I'm like, I never thought about the fact that I can do bong rips while watching my favorite band play live. I can't do that at a show. I can do that
No,
with
you
this live
can't.
streaming concerts thing.
Maybe we don't need in-person shows back.
Whoa, what? Slow down. Slow down. I feel like there might be room for both.
This town is big enough for the two of
Yeah,
us.
100%.
Oh, what was I gonna say? I'm very excited for people to be listening, like, to put out this new album of ours, because, like, I'm very proud of our EPs and what we've made so far, but, like, I don't know, I just think what's coming is just so, like, even better than what we've done before.
Right.
Like,
Well, and also think of it this way, George. Like, I think I talked about this with the three of you guys one time. Whereas when you guys put those albums out, you were like, what, 17?
yeah.
Those EPs? Yeah. So, like, that's been, like, 3 years almost now.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's 3 years you guys have been getting better as musicians, better as songwriters, better, like...
Yeah,
as artists.
we've been playing more together. We all have been attending music school and learning from that, and, like, we've played a number more gigs, and yeah, just, like, the songs from our album are just, like, I'm very proud of them.
Yeah. And another thing that I really like about your guys' music is I feel like lyrically it's there, because I'm big on lyrical music. Like, I don't really listen to like any kind of electronic, like dubstep or like dance music and stuff, because for me, like, lyrics are a big deal. And, like, I love listening to your older music and stuff, but I'm really excited to see how your, like, songwriting and, like, lyric writing has changed, like, because, like 3 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were in high school still when you released your music, so obviously just there's going to be a big difference between high school era Gratuitous Platypus and now you guys are in college, like, out living on your own and shit. So
Totally.
I'm really excited to see, like, just listen to the lyrics on every song.
Yeah, I have definitely gained a lot more confidence in writing, like, lyrics recently, even, like, really recently. But sorry, let me grab this thought again.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm really excited for people to hear it, and these new songs definitely we have a lot more experience and things to talk about than we really had before. Our first EP was done in the 12th grade, like the beginning of the 12th grade, I believe. Gosh, when abouts did we put it out? Yeah, in the 12th grade, we even had, like, an assembly for it and everything, and we forced our whole high school to come and watch us in the gym. But then we released the second EP, Slightly Foul, right after we graduated. So, like, in the summer after our graduation.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of even feels almost like that, because it almost reminds me of almost like your guys' version of there's an album by a folk punk artist named Just Nick, and the record's just called Bed Punk, and kind of the theme is almost like, this is our last summer and stuff.
Right.
And I definitely get that almost feeling from Slightly Foul, like, maybe not even necessarily, like, directly in the lyrics, just like, this feels like a last summer, like, this is my last summer vacation album.
Right.
Or EP.
Right.
Yeah, even some of the, like, I'm not gonna spoil anything from the album or anything, but, like, I've heard, like, some of the lyrical stuff you've been doing, George, and George has, like, even showed me some, like, poetry and stuff that he's written, or, like, ideas for stuff not even on the album, and I really do feel like I mean, I've told you this before, George. I think you got a lot of good stuff, and I am also super excited for everyone to hear everything you've done on this new album, and for me to hear it, because once again, I haven't heard anything actually properly mixed, really, other than just, like, eavesdropping on your guys' practices.
Steve hears what floats through the wall to his bedroom.
Yeah.
Lyrics don't translate very well to
No,
that.
the only time I ever would really hear them is if I was like in the kitchen, like making food and just like poking my head over, like, sounds good, guys. Yeah.
I've started recently. I've kind of like I do all of the artwork for our albums and
awesome.
that kind of stuff as well. Yeah. So the album cover is like, mostly finished. We're pretty sure about. I don't think it's going to change from what it is now. But I've been like formulating. Sorry, the
That was embarrassing, George.
Yeah, I know, right? The songwriter can't even say some simple words. I've been putting together what I want to put with the album for our like lyric sheet. I want to actually do like a printed out lyric sheet for this album and give everyone an actual like concrete like lyrics that people can read, because for our last two albums, I know I've had different people like sing our songs to me and fill in words that just aren't there at all. And I'm like, this is cool. But I want to like give people, because I love buying an album and like reading through the album.
Yep,
like it's a book.
Yep.
And I want to give people that experience from If I Smile.
Here's a really good example of that, George, what you're talking about. Do you remember, I think this was like right before Stellar left for the summer or something. I'd been living with you guys for like 8 months. I had known you guys for almost 2 years, and I finally asked you the question that I have had since like the first week of like knowing you guys. There was the one song you guys have. I forget which one it is off the top of my head right now. But right before the solo starts, I couldn't tell if Stellar was saying Georgie Boy, Tell Him How I Feel, or Soulja Boy.
I know the song you're talking about. I think that might be my favorite.
It's just
song.
us.
Yes, yeah. Because for some reason, I thought he was saying Soulja Boy, Tell Him, because I was like, that's kind of funny. But like, I was like, there's no way that's what he's saying, right? So then I finally brought it up to you guys. I was like, is it a Soulja Boy reference, or are you saying Georgie Boy? And you guys were like, no, absolutely we're not saying Soulja Boy. Why would we be doing that?
I feel like the next time we play, maybe it's just us live. It's going to be Soulja Boy, Tell Him.
Soulja Boy, Tell Him. And then you can just go, you.
No, that's when me and Steve from the crowd go, you.
Yeah, that's true.
You.
It'll become like an in-joke at all of our shows, and everyone will shout, you, even when we don't say Soulja Boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lyric sheet would definitely help with that.
I know for Endless Entertainment, the bit right before we like break down into the build up towards the last like chorus, like, is it right before or right after my solo? Right after. No, it's not. Gosh, how does my own song go? I haven't played that one in a while. Anyway, there's a lyric where I say, I guess that I'll just rot. And
it's rot.
And it's always been rot, but everyone thinks it's rock, so now it is rock.
Oh, see, I think, okay. That's definitely one where I was like, what is he saying, rot or rock there?
Yeah, it started as rot, and I wrote it as rot, and now it is rock.
That's funny.
Do you sing it as rock on the album? On
the album, it's rot with a T.
Oh, man.
But it hasn't been rot since I recorded it.
That explains my confusion then. Because I've heard you guys do it live, and I was like, I swear he's saying rock, but it doesn't sound like that on the album.
We just kind of go, rah,
rah.
Yeah. In like 15 years, you're going to have some kid come up to you at a show and be like, actually, you played your song wrong. You actually did it wrong. You guys messed up.
The actual lyrics are rot, actually, not rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can just be like, shut up, nerd. And
I'll be like,
your fans.
Yeah, I'll be like, man, you really know your stuff, don't you?
Right. So for a song you sent us that is just like a classic, you're always in the mood for it. You sent us A Certain Romance by Arctic Monkeys.
Yes, sir.
And
I haven't heard this one.
Arctic Monkeys is kind of like Car Seat Headrest for me. That's another band I've always thought was pretty cool, but never like sat down and listened to extensively.
Oh yeah.
So I'm excited to listen to this as well.
Real quick before we start this, I've talked with George a little bit about Arctic Monkeys before. Actually, I think it was on the episode of the GP podcast that I was on, or the live stream or whatever. We talked about it, how George was like, yeah, man, I love the Arctic Monkeys, but I wish people would just listen to more than just AM. Like, there's other albums out there to listen to. And as he was saying that, I was just sitting there like, yeah, because that was the only album I had listened to.
I have been a music gatekeeper for so much of my life so far. I am trying really hard not to be anymore. But they're my all-time favorite band, and so I couldn't choose anything but Arctic Monkeys.
Right. No, that's totally fair. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's hear it then. Yeah.
Yeah, Gage, if you want to cue it up.
Tracky bottoms tucked in socks, but all of that's what the point is not. The point's that there ain't no romance around there, and there's the truth that they can't see. They'd probably like to throw a punch at me, and if you could only see them, then you would agree that there ain't no romance around there. Oh, it's a funny thing, we'll tell them if you like, we'll tell them all tonight, they'll never listen, because their minds are made up, of course it's all okay to carry on that way. 'Cause over there there's broken bones, there's only music, so that there's new ringtones, and it don't take no Sherlock Holmes to see it's a little different around here. Don't get me wrong, though, there's boys in bands and kids who like to scrap with pool cues in their hands, and just 'cause he's had a couple of cans, he thinks it's alright to act like a dickhead, don't you know? Oh, it's a funny thing, we'll tell them if you like, we'll tell them all tonight, they'll never listen, because their minds are made up, and course it's all okay to carry on that way, but I said no, oh no, well you won't get me to go, not anywhere, no I won't go, oh no. Over there, there's friends of mine. What can I say? I've known them for a long, long time. I and it might overstep the line, but you just cannot get angry in the same way. No, not in the same way. So not in the same way. Oh no, oh no, no.
That was pretty cool, George. Actually,
Yeah,
that's off of their first album, eh?
Yeah, it's the last song on the first album.
Maybe I should check that one out then.
Yeah, that was a killer song. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, their discography is quite like diverse, actually.
That's something
there's
I've
a little
always
something
heard
for
about
everyone.
Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah, the first two albums are like sort of pop punky type stuff. Definitely like leaning more on that punk side of things.
Right.
Because they started playing their instruments maybe a year or two before they made that album.
Really?
Yeah, they really they started playing and almost instantly just found success. It's crazy. The story of that band is wild. Yeah. My favorite album is the third album. And it's called Humbug. It's a lot darker of an album. I was gonna choose the song Dance Little Liar off Humbug for it like here today, but I wanted to put something in that was like classic and just an all-around great track that is less of, I wouldn't say Dance Little Liar like is a niche pick for an Arctic Monkeys fan or anything, but like I wanted something that was off the first album and like just an all-around great track, you know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Definitely.
I think I'm actually gonna download that album and listen to it because and you might get mad at me for saying this. I downloaded and I listened to Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, their newest album, and it just didn't catch me really. But I really like the sound of that older style, I think, more than that album. Because like you said, it is very diverse. It's kind of different. Like if you listen to that and then that newest album back to back, like
it's like you'll get tonal whiplash if you try to do that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you guys mind if I go into a little like spiel about my favorite?
Right ahead. Absolutely.
All right.
That's what this is for.
Cool. Yeah, so the first two albums are a great starting point. It's where I always like recommend people start is with the first album. Excuse me. Usually like people will have heard of the band through AM, which is totally cool. Like that album is really great and there's a reason why it is so popular and successful. But if you're like, whenever there's someone who has expressed interest in like listening to the Arctic Monkeys, I always recommend starting like with the beginning of their discography, because it's like that whole first album, Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not, is like every song on the album is a great track. Like I don't think there is a track on that album that is less than any of the other ones.
Right.
But it's also like a little bit of a rough, endeavor, like that you can still tell they're young and like beginning everything, and it's like you can feel their enthusiasm in it. I really think like it's really great for that. Then you move into their second album, Favorite Worst Nightmare, and it is more of that sort of same punk feeling that the first album has, but almost like polished more. It's more refined, and the songwriting has kind of come really full circle on that album. And I think it's their best, or one of their best albums, in my opinion, because it's just everything that's perfect about the first album is improved upon and like really comes full circle on the second. And here it's like where the cool thing and why I think I've liked Arctic Monkeys for as long as I have is they started to experiment and they started to change with their sound. The first two albums were recorded in England. I forget exactly what studios and so on. The only one that I know specifically is the fourth, but they moved to the US and started playing. They got like switch producers and stuff, and their third album is a lot darker, still like rocky kind of stuff, but it's has a more bleak sound to it. They recorded that one in New York with Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. He produced that album.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite album of their discography. I don't really know how to explain why it is, but it's the one that I like have gotten the most out of personally. I really like Alex's songwriting on the album, and all of the drumming is like odd because Matt Helders, who's their drummer, does a lot of on that album, at least he does a lot of like almost drum practices, like rhythm exercises. That
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, he like turns them into the beats for the song. Like weird. A lot of the songs just sound like there's a song Cornerstone, and the drum line is just like floor tom, bass drum, snare drum, bass drum, floor tom, bass drum, snare drum, bass drum, like through the whole thing. I mean, it's not that exactly, right. But it's like a drum exercise almost.
That's interesting. That's like actually how the famous solo, or not solo, I guess, riff, the opening riff for Sweet Child of Mine, that was based off of like a picking exercise that Slash had, and he was just playing that, and I think it was Axl Rose was like, "Whoa, that's awesome! Let's make that into a song," and he was just like, "Sure, I guess so, whatever." Like, that's like an iconic like solo.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then they kind of like took that sound from the third album and started to move forward with it and continued to change. They made their fourth album's called Suck It and See, and it's the first album that they recorded in Los Angeles. That album's recorded at Sound City in LA. It's the same studio as like Nirvana's Nevermind and Fleetwood Mac Rumors and all those albums. They recorded that one there, and it's a great album. It's my personal least favorite out of all of them, but really doesn't mean anything because I think they're all great.
Fair enough.
It's the one that I just don't listen to as much as the other ones, really. It's more of like Alex Turner's breakup pop-y kind of album a little bit.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
But they established a lot of the sounds on that album that they would perfect on AM, which is like the album that kind of broke through into America like really well, you know.
I couldn't tell you how many times I listened to that album in high school. Like,
it's so good. Like,
and it's really funny that I never went and listened to anything else by them other than that album, because I love that album. I used to like, just play it on repeat, basically.
It is an almost like flawless like rock album, you know.
I think so, yeah.
Just every song on it is perfectly designed, and yeah, it is a really great album. And it makes sense that it like got as big as it did.
Yeah, totally.
And then they did the same sort of thing that they did in between the second album and the third album, where they took like a break and started experimenting more, which led to the sixth album, which is Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, and it's very different.
Yeah. I went into it, and this is my own fault. I went into it expecting it to be more like AM, and I was just like kind of disappointed. I think I need to give it another listen, just because maybe I wasn't in the right headspace when I heard it. But like, I thought it was fine. It just didn't really grab me. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've been like a diehard Arctic Monkeys fan since 2014, and when Tranquility Base first came out, I was in England at the time on a family vacation, and I stayed up all night in my hotel room for the album to drop, because I wanted to be like the first person out of all of my friends to hear it.
Yeah.
And I had to listen to it like a good 5 or 6 times before I actually liked it.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
wow. Okay.
It had to grow on me a lot.
That makes me feel a little bit better, because I was really worried. I was like, I hate to like disappoint George, but I just didn't vibe with me, man.
No, it's definitely, especially compared to everything else they've done, it's so different. Like, it really is a step out of like left field.
Totally.
It was going to be it started its process as a solo album for Alex.
I think I remember you telling me that, and it definitely feels more like, I don't know, it doesn't feel. I can't really talk. I was gonna say it doesn't feel like an Arctic Monkeys album, but I guess all I know is like 2 songs off the first album and then like AM, but it really does feel very different.
Alex has been a part of this other super group called the Last Shadow Puppets.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
They're another great group too. Very like cinematic music. It's a guy called Miles Kane. He's another like English artist who makes similar music to the Arctic Monkeys. But they actually got together and made the first Last Shadow Puppets album in between the second Arctic Monkeys album and the third Arctic Monkeys album.
Oh yeah.
Which is, that time when they first changed up their sound and made the third Arctic Monkeys album, which is like very different from the first 2. And then that same thing happened after AM. Alex got together with Miles and they made another Last Shadow Puppets album in 2016. And then in 2018, they put out Tranquility Base, and it's a very different like departure from the album that came before it.
Oh, totally.
So it's just like there's a little something for everyone. Like there's like punk, like closer to punk songs. There's some darker, maybe more goth rock type stuff. There's some like pop rock, like breakup songs. There's straight ahead, almost like Greaser inspired rock and roll album, and then Space Station Lounge music in the same field as a David Bowie album.
Space Station Lounge. Yeah, I think that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah, they're my favorite band, and I could like go on for hours about them.
Yeah, that's always something I've heard about the Arctic Monkeys is that just anyone can find something they like from them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to check out more. I'm definitely gonna have to download a few records.
Yeah, always, like I was saying a second ago, that first album's a great place to start.
Yeah, I'm big on starting on the first record and then moving through the discography.
Same here.
What I like to do is when I discover a band, I will either listen to the album of a song that I just like heard by them and the first album, or I'll listen to their most recent thing and their first album and I've had mixed results with doing this, but I always think it's a cool idea just to be like, all right, where are they at now and where did they start? Like that's what I did with like Queens of the Stone Age. That's what I did with Joyce Manor. And like I don't know, I've really enjoyed doing that, and I think that's a really cool way of doing things. But
yeah, that's cool actually. I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah,
give it a shot next time.
Sometimes when I like discover a new artist, I'll like discover new artists in kind of unique ways sometimes. And when that happens, I'm kind of a sicko sometimes because I was listening to this one song by a band called Pigeon Pit. And pretty much in the intro, he says, I'm going to make this as Kimya Dawson as possible. And then later in the song, he says, don't ask me the reasons for why I write these songs, because for this one, someone told me to write a song that sounded like Kimya Dawson. And this is where I'm sick, because what I did, I'm like, I really like this song. I'm going to go to Kimya Dawson's discography, and I'm going to find the closest like album release to when this song came out. But like before it, I'm like, okay, so if they're saying that this sounds like Kimya Dawson and this came out in 2008, then I should go listen to like a 2007 Kimya Dawson album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But,
I've been really weird when it comes to discovering albums, like in bands recently. Yeah. I've been finding them on my Instagram Explore page.
Yeah, you've been telling me about this.
Yeah, I like see a picture of a bunch of musicians that's like a black and white picture of a bunch of musicians playing in some basement somewhere. And if I like the guitars they're using, then I'll go and like search them up and listen to like their first album.
I do the same thing, especially with instruments, because the band Propaganda, and guitars especially, that band made me fall in love with the SG, just the Gibson SG.
Nice.
And like not even just because one, I think it looks really cool. I feel like it's one of the coolest looking guitars, but also just
Gibson SGs.
Oh, the sound of a Gibson SG is just so powerful to me. I just love SGs, and like I've never owned an SG, but every SG I've held, that's like the lightest guitar ever.
Really?
Yeah.
I've personally never enjoyed playing or listening to a Gibson SG.
Really?
My favorite SG is 70s Who, when Pete Townsend had like a modified SG.
Yeah. Did you guys know the guitarist for The Police? I can't remember his name. He used a fretless guitar.
That sounds in line with The Police.
Right? And I've seen like fretless basses before, but I've never really seen a fretless guitar, and it's a really interesting concept to me. I like it.
You know, if that was any other band, I would have been very surprised, but the fact that The Police, no, that's pretty in line with them. Yeah. I could totally see that.
Well, George, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say real quick, whenever I see someone playing a Fender Jaguar that like kicks something in my head, I'm like, I'm going to check out this band.
Oh,
yeah, Jags are nice.
I'm a big fan of Fender Mustangs, basses and guitars. I had a Fender Mustang half-scale PJ bass for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And that was my favorite bass that I've ever owned.
I've been thinking about, I want to start like making demo tapes all by myself.
Right.
But I don't own like my own bass, and I was looking at them actually, like at Mustang basses.
Just borrow my bass or Stellar's.
Well, there's plenty of basses around, but I'm also like,
there's like 5 in the house.
Yeah, I got plenty of access to a bass, but I want to get one of everything for myself at some point in time, and that's what I've been looking at.
Yeah,
fair enough.
And the Player Series is like only like $600 to $800. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've got a Fender. I've got a Fender Duosonic, which
Oh.
is very similar to the Mustangs.
For me, it was between the Duosonic and the Mustang when I got my Mustang.
Yeah, I was the same way. The Mustang that I played at the Long and McQuaid when I was picking up the Duosonic, or like when I bought my Duosonic, just like didn't have the same thing to me that Duosonic that I bought did.
Yeah.
You know, it was like all in the moment of sitting there and trying it out, and I was just getting the right vibe from the Duo.
100%. I think there's really something to be said about like I can't imagine buying a guitar and not playing it first. Like I've had friends who have like ordered guitars online because they're like, oh yeah, this is the one that I want. But like for me, I need to, if I'm gonna buy a guitar, I need to play it. You know, I need to have it in my hands. I need to feel, and this is for guitars or for bass. I need to feel how it sounds, and I need to hear it in person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, what I did for a while, I haven't bought a new instrument in a long time, but my go-to method was usually I'd like go to like a Guitar Center or something like that, a music store, and like try out a few instruments. But most of my instruments I order from like Sweetwater.
Oh yeah,
I
fair
really
enough.
like Sweetwater. Those are my boys. I love my Sweetwater rep like he's my own brother.
Nice.
Well, there you go.
That's how I feel about the Calgary Long and McQuaid.
Yeah. But George, we could easily talk to you all day about music.
Yeah, I was gonna say we probably have been going on for a rather long time now.
Yeah. We broke an hour, so probably gonna let you go. Stop holding you hostage.
It sounds good.
Yeah,
Well, it's been
thanks
a
for doing
pleasure,
this, George.
guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a good time.
Yeah. Well, it was great having you on, man.
Yeah, and last week we went over GP links and everything. And you know we'll throw them in the description again. But you want us to put any personal links down there for you?
Yeah, is there anything you want to plug?
You know, not right now. I've got some stuff that I've been like starting. So in the future, maybe. All of the stuff that I do in the future will be findable from GP. So
Cool, awesome.
Or we might just have to have you back again.
yeah, I'd love to be on again, guys.
All
Well,
right,
there you go.
you guys heard it here first from George. Go listen to Arctic Monkeys. All right, thanks again, man.